With both Nike and Adidas headquartered in the Portland metro area, our city is kind of a mecca for sneakerheads. So when the new movie Air came out, about Nike's iconic Air Jordan sneaker, we knew we wanted to hear from those in the local footwear scene. So today on CityCast Portland, we're talking with Herbert Beauclair, co-founder of Sneaker Week. And if you don't know what that is, that's when footwear designers and fans come from around the world to our city and celebrate all things sneakers. Herbert is going to let us know if the movie, which is mainly set in Portland and Beaverton, is worth the ticket price. It's Monday, April 17th. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. Herbert, thank you so much for joining us. So the entire movie is dramatizing the creation pretty much of like one of the most iconic sneakers in history. And I grew up buying like Reebok knockoffs from Payless, so I was like not much of a sneakerhead and never got into it, like never got in the culture. But could you explain it to non-sneakerheads like me? the significance of the Air Jordan shoe to, culture.
Yeah, I think the movie did a really good job of kind of explaining why that particular shoe is just so iconic. If there wasn't this shoe, people would still know Michael Jordan, the athlete. But what he did as an athlete, like transcended like style, transcended the idea of an athlete being a brand and people looking up to him and idling him were able to kind of be a part of that through his products. For some people it kind of gave them a piece of like superpowers, and so
Yeah.
everybody wanted a piece of that. Like it was the hottest thing out back in the 80s. And the crazy thing is like it's still like the hottest thing out like in 2023.
It's because the movie was about the shoe. Like, if anyone's listening, they're like, "Oh, Air." Michael Jordan was like not even in the movie. Like, did that work
Didn't
for
even see his
you?
face. Yeah,
Yeah.
didn't even see his face. And I think it was great. Like me, I'm a sneaker person. I'm a sneaker lover, so I know like a lot of like the history behind the shoes and stuff like that. But to have a movie dedicated to a shoe was crazy, right? Like for me,
Yeah.
typically you see a story and you might get one snapshot of a shoe in something, and like that's what I end up geeking out over. But like
Hmm.
no, the whole movie was about just the process and the fact that there were multiple people involved in different ways to make this happen. And like I said, it turned an athlete into a brand. And that was the first time that actually happened. So now you look at other athletes that are now brands. I mean, that wouldn't have been possible without Michael Jordan and all the events that happened in that movie.
Hmm. It was just wild to me that I was like, I'm watching a biopic of a shoe.
Yeah. The funny thing is, like, you almost forget that it was about a shoe because for the most part of it, it was just like, you know, hey, how do we get this guy? How do we get this guy? It was like all about the guy.
Yeah, because they build up so much tension. And I love that.
Hmm.
I love that they're just like, will they get Michael Jordan? And in my head, I'm like, they do. The shoe's made. Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, spoiler alert, like it
Hmm.
happened, But
Yeah.
I love that all that tension that they were building.
But it's real. It's that's real stress and real problems that real people face in the industry. And so, me being like someone that works within the footwear industry, those were all relatable scenarios to like, man, I got a family to feed. Like I worked so hard to get in this position. I've built up this tenure to finally have some say so. And like they were talking to the guy, like Phil Knight was in meetings with these people trying to bolster this depleted sector within their business. And, they were putting their lives on the line, their careers on the line at least. So I felt that tension, and I knew, and I know that is real. So I know, for the thousands of people that are, working in
Hmm.
the industry, they're all probably clenching their butt cheeks in the chairs, just like, man, they really out there doing it.
Okay, this is just like a question that I've had. Sneaker culture
Hmm.
um, is really strong
Hmm.
in the States. And I mean, some of these sneakers, they come out and then they're immediately resold for like thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
I'm curious, do you think that there was sneaker culture before the Air Jordan?
Yeah. The funny thing is like so that movie was based around like mid 80s, 84, 85, and I was born in 89. So this was like a snapshot of like, things and scenarios that I didn't get to see. And I always hear about, like Adidas being on the top and um,
And Converse actually existing.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. But like not when I was alive. Ever since I've been alive, it's always been Nike, and to see how Nike was sweating the competition, like to see like man, hey, everybody just wants to wear Adidas. They love the tracksuits. They love the track stars. Run DMC is literally making songs about this shoe, and so like man, the rappers were definitely not running track, but they were sporting those tracksuits. So it was always something that I think people just use to kind of like look good, feel good type of vibe. But like nowadays, you got to pay a hefty price to look good and feel good,
Yeah.
and the scarcity now is not highly available. So people are doing some crazy stuff to get their hands on a pair.
All right, let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what the movie got right and what it got wrong. So, from what you know about how the Air Jordan came about, like how
Mhm.
accurate do you think the events the movie laid out were? Like, did Sonny Vaccaro really drive out to North Carolina and accost Michael Jordan's parents? Like, did that all actually happen?
The funny thing is, like, I knew a lot of the story beforehand.
Hmm.
I don't think the drive actually happened, but the idea of like him reaching out and contacting
Oh,
without,
like him driving to South
yeah,
to
yeah,
North
yeah, yeah.
Carolina. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all the characters, Peter Moore, like, to me, I'm just glad that those people are getting like the shine, um, like H, like, he's I think Chris Tucker actually did a really good job of just kind of like the lightheartedness of H of like the positivity. Um,
Could you say his full name for those who don't know what you're talking about?
oh yeah, yeah. Sorry, everybody knows him as H, but he goes by Howard. I mean, his name is Howard White.
Yeah.
I want to say like one of the coolest guys that I've ever met. Always motivational, always like super positive. And yeah, I know Chris Tucker had to have like watched some video or met him in person because he got a lot of that like
He got him?
impact. Yeah, just the fact like that these people are legends. Like I got a chance to meet Peter Moore before he passed, and yeah, man, it's just like legendary people that I'm like,
And can you explain who Peter Moore was in the narrative?
yeah, Peter Moore, a legendary designer like in the industry, from Nike and Adidas. Like he's the reason why sneaker culture is still what it is. Um,
And he designed the Air Jordan, right? Like he's the
yeah, yeah.
guy.
Forget
Yeah.
for him to get his due and for people to know his name of the person who created the Air Jordan 1. Um, I think it's just giving him his flowers, and at the end of the movie it mentions that he passed like right before the filming, but
Hmm.
I feel like his character was nailed down too, and um, from someone that's formally educated in design, like to hear his process and like how he thought about it, whether it was dramatized or not. I'm just like, man, people need to see that more, because there's a whole lot more that goes into creating and designing a shoe. And the collectors admire it, the designers and the people that are in the industry, they relate to it. But I don't think like the consumers always get that information.
Do you think they nailed Phil Knight?
I haven't. I've only been able to witness Uncle Phil from afar. He seemed pretty cool. The way that Ben Affleck portrayed him, but I can see a lot of those like questions around like, hey, why is basketball even a thing? And having to be convinced of like, people are going to be able to take a basketball shoe off of the court. I could see that being like a what the hell are you talking about type of question, and for him to be taking a company, from the back of his truck to a couple $1 billion, you know, that whole scenario to me just it seemed accurate.
So you would recommend the movie to other people? Like you're just like, yeah, this was great.
Man, I would use that as like an educational piece for sure. Like, definitely,
Wow.
I feel like Nike needs to use this movie to like onboard folks. Like, hey, if you're new to this company, like watch this movie.
Yeah.
But no, I think people that are like
I mean, because
interested
it did feel like that. That's, you know
a
what I
little
mean?
bit, yeah.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
did feel like that, but yeah, I think for people that, because there's a lot of like younger folks that are getting into this, and you mentioned earlier about like people spending thousands of dollars on shoes. Some of these people are like young that are spending all this money on these shoes. So at least like for them to get a little bit of background, like some history, without it being some Pearl Harbor type of war movie. I think, yeah, it could be a really entertaining thing to just like take your kids out and try to school them. Especially if you like grew up in that era.
I thought it was a little heavy-handed in that though, Herbert, where it was just like every B-roll was like, we're in the 80s, like
Yeah,
every
yeah,
B-roll was just like, where's the beef? And like just weird
man.
games. Like it showed Nike employees playing weird 80s games, and I'm like,
Hmm.
there's no way they're gonna play Mousetrap. It's in
Man,
the middle of a workday. Why are they playing this weird random game?
I don't put it past them. The funny thing though is like I was seeing like other commercials and stuff about the movie, and the way that people explained it was like it's like a lighthearted like dramatization, like a comedic, you know.
Hmm. For sure, it's very funny. For
Yeah,
sure,
and
yeah.
so after watching it, I was like, "Oh, okay, well, I guess that makes sense if it wasn't supposed to be like that
So
serious."
you recommend it?
I would
Yeah,
recommend it. I think
yeah,
specifically for like Portlanders, it was really
for
cool to see like
sure.
this kind of retro version of Portland, and they brought up just like a bunch of inside jokes to Portland. Like
Hmm.
the dude at the 7-Eleven store. Because if you don't know, Michael Jordan was supposed to be drafted to the Portland Trailblazers. So there's a
Uh
lot of
huh.
like salty Trailblazer fans.
It's really funny. And also, this is like one thing that I really loved, and I'm sure you also heard the reaction is whenever they would show a bridge, some people would just clap.
Oh
Did
yeah,
you hear
yeah,
that?
yeah,
There's
yeah.
like it was like the Broadway bridge, and someone was like, "Yeah!" And I just love
Hey, I
that.
mean, 'cause it's millions of people that are gonna go see this movie, and so I feel like there's like that hometown pride, and like a few times they mention Portland, they say it out loud, and the thing that I relate to most is when H was like, Michael Jordan's mom was trying to ask him like, does
Oh
he like
yeah,
it out
yeah.
here?
Yeah, it was the immediate like black people conversation of like, have you
Hmm.
noticed there aren't any black people here?
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
was almost like Jordan's mom was checking in on him to make
Hmm.
sure that he's okay because he is working for Nike.
Had to make sure he wasn't in a get out situation.
Yeah, totally. She had that look. She's like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah,
And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's real nice here."
yeah.
Uh, that's so funny. Yeah, I noticed that too. It took like every it took a lot of restraint when they showed the St. John's Bridge, not to like, because I live in St. John's,
Clap.
not to be,
Yeah,
yeah, not
yeah.
to be like
See,
St.
that's what I'm saying.
John's,
There's
exactly.
some pride in that, and yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that see that, and it's beautiful shots of Portland in there too. So some people don't even know where Portland is. Trust me, I still have family that ask me like, "Where is it that you live?"
Yeah,
So for them to see it, I think it's going to be cool.
yeah. Well, thanks so much for hanging out with us and telling us your opinion on the movie.
I recommend it.
Yeah, you recommend he recommends it, man. He
There you
recommends it. But could you fill us in a little bit on Sneaker Week when it's coming up and like what it is for those who've never heard of it, even though like I can't believe.
Oh yeah. Sneaker Week this year is coming up in August. So we come around once a year. We try to set the whole city on fire. We do some events throughout the entire city. Definitely check us out at Sneaker Week PDX on our social media for when things launch in May. But yeah, August 3rd through the 9th. Just come check us out.
Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
And now for your microdose of news. A lot of people are upset with Governor Kotek's plan to convert local farmland into semiconductor factories. But a bipartisan group of legislators has a different idea. Go for the golf courses, specifically Pumpkin Ridge in North Plain and the Reserve in Aloha. They're both near the hub of Hillsborough's current high tech industry. One wrinkle, though, they're in private hands with no indication of wanting to sell. Plus, we've talked a lot about the proposals to start tolling local freeways, but could they actually make our roads safer? According to the Oregon Department of Transportation's Brendan Finn, the answer is yes. He told KGW that tolling will be vital for making seismic upgrades to important bridges and other local infrastructure. He also says ODOT is planning to prevent traffic jams on local streets if people try to dodge the toll roads. I'm not sure how that's going to happen, but that's going to be fun. For even more local news and events, sign up for our daily newsletter, Hey Portland. We'll throw a link in the show notes. That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. If you enjoyed the show, share it with a friend, rate, or leave us a review. It'll really help us out. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.